Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you that how we can edit or update our list. So let's go back to the My List screen. And this is the My List screen. The one thing that you note over here is that I can always go and add a new list. I can say add list and I can, put a name for the list like UK trip. There we go. So we have a new list. But what about if I wanted to update this list? Maybe the UK trip is not a good name. Maybe I wanted to call it vacation trip. And maybe I also wanted to change the color because I already had the green color, so I accidentally selected the green. Maybe I wanted to select it blue. So how can I do that? So what we're going to do is we are going to implement the edit or the update, same thing, when the person is doing a long press on these items, the list items, we're going to show them some sort of a view where they can go to update. But the first question becomes that, okay, how are we going to do that? How are we going to perform a long press? So this is our code. You can see for each list, we are doing the navigation stack and all that. And in the navigation stack, we have this H stack. So that H stack is basically building the cell over here, this whole thing. We can extract this out and we can call this something else like a My List cell view. So let's go ahead and right click and say extract out the subview. And at the bottom of the screen, we can see the extracted view. Over here, we can go ahead and change this to My List Cell View. Now, My List Cell View depends on the My List, so you need to pass in My List. So we'll say My List. And now I can go back over here and simply start using My List Cell View and passing in the My List because I already have it. At this point, you can move this into a separate file if you want to. So I can cut this, go to the views, go ahead and create a new SwiftUI view. We'll call it My List Cell View, right? I think that's what we called it, My List Cell View. And I'll simply go ahead and paste it over here. Okay, My List Cell View is there. Well, we can go back. Now, the UI doesn't really change because we extracted the same exact code. So you can see the UI is exactly the same. But what we want to do is if I click on any of these grocery items or the My List, it does perform the navigation. Okay. And what we want to do at this point is if I do a long press, I should see something else. So this is our My List cell view. I'm going to go ahead and perform a long press gesture. We can pass in a minimum duration, or if you don't pass in, that's also fine, but you can pass in minimum duration. So let's say minimum duration 0.5. And what I want to do is currently I just want to say, just print that I did something. Let's say on press list gesture. Let's go ahead and build it. I just want to see that if this messes up something or if this is okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and long press on, I'm going to try to tap on the groceries so that I can see that my navigation works. Oh, it's already broken. You can see that if I'm tapping on the backlog, now it works. So kind of weird. There we go. You can see it's some part it works, but if I tap on the actual groceries, it doesn't work. All right. If I do a long press, then it works. If I do a long press on the side, it doesn't work. Okay. So we're having some weird issues over here with the long press only enabled on these elements, and the rest of the thing, if I press on it, if I tap on it, it doesn't work, but if I tap on the side, it actually takes me to the other part. Okay, so how do we fix it? Well, there are many different ways of fixing it. One of the ways that you can fix it is to just perform more of a programmatic navigation. Now, this means that we will go ahead and create a my list over here. So on the top, I'm sure there are other ways to fix it. Maybe you can even try simultaneous gesture, but I haven't really tried that much, because simultaneous, when I say the name, it kind of sounds like that it's going to be a gesture, two gestures at the same time, but I don't really want to do two gestures on the same time. I want to simply do one gesture when I tap and one gesture when I do something else. But maybe I'm not understanding the simultaneous gesture. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a selected list. And on the tap gesture, actually over here we can try first of all content shape, so that we can give some sort of a shape to our views. And this means that now the whole rectangle, the whole thing will be the rectangle, and I can probably tap on it. So let's tap over here. Nothing happens. Tap over here. It works. And yeah, so the same exact problem we're facing over here. So I'm going to say on tap gesture, and I will say selected list equals to my list. So I'm going to put the tap gesture first, where when you tap, it's going to assign the my list, whatever the list that I tap, to the selected list. And once you apply the selected list, somewhere down the road, I will also have the navigation part of it. So let's go back to the navigation part. Probably over here, we can just put it somewhere outside the list, not inside the list. Navigation destination. And this navigation destination will work on the item, and that item will be the selected list. Whenever that changes, we are going to get access to the list. And this is where we can perform something. We can say, show me the text view, which is my list.name. I know that we are not going to use a text view, but it's a good start. So this means that whenever you perform a tap gesture, we're going to assign the list to the selected list variable, the state. And then since we have the navigation destination over here set up, which is listening to the changes of selected list, this is going to trigger, and it's going to simply take you to the my list.name, meaning it's going to show you a text view. Okay, and okay, that works. You can see that the text view is being displayed. And let me go ahead and also long press. Now the long press is not really working over here, you can see, but the long press is, I guess, working over here, but not here. All right. So that's another thing that we need to find out, that what exactly is going on and why the long press is not working. Now, in this case, let's go back to the My List view. And we have a text view over there, which is displaying the name. We can probably set the frame for that. So let's go ahead and set the frame maximum width to be infinity, and alignment will be leading, meaning left. Let's go back again. We need to do all of these things to maybe get it to work right. Oh, there we go. It's working. Did you notice that? So if I'm over here, well, let's see over here. Yeah, you can see on long press gesture is getting fired. And let's go ahead and tap over here. Okay, I can go to places. Great. Now, we don't really want to take the user, when you tap, we don't really want to take the user to a text view, which is right over here. We want to take the user to the detail view, right? So we need to update somewhere. So let's go ahead and see if we can update that part. Right over here, we're going to say we're going to go to my list detail screen, we're going to be passing in the my list. Well, we're going to passing in, the my list. That's already passed to us. And let's see if we have to change something over here in the navigation link. So navigation link, I guess we can change something over here. It doesn't sound right. We have to use the value part of it. So probably have to remove most of this stuff and kind of like write it again. Let's go ahead and remove it. Because we have to use the value. So we have to use the overload function that uses the value. All right. All right. So let's see. Selected list. We do have that. We don't really have the actions sheet right now, so don't worry about that. But you can see the change that we made is now our navigation link is using this one with the value. We pass in the value, which is my list. And whenever this particular value actually changes, which is my list changes, then we perform the navigation. All right. Let's go ahead and check it out. Tap on the back. Okay, navigation is working fine. And long press. Oops. Is long press working? Kind of hard to tell. Okay, let's do it again. I guess we are not really printing anything. Maybe that's why. So let's go ahead and print something. On long press. Yep, working over here and working. Okay, so it looks like everything is working as expected now. Now at this point, what should happen when you perform on long gesture? We already have a view that allows you to add a new list. And that view is displayed when you tap on Add List. So maybe we can utilize the same exact view to edit or update our list. The only difference will be that when we press the on long press gesture and we reach this particular view, then the information will already be filled out because we are trying to edit. So that's our next step. So let's go ahead and see how we can do that. So at this point, when a person do a long press, we want to take them, we want to show a sheet or a modal, and we want to take them to add my list screen, but we want to pass in the currently selected list. We're already displaying a sheet over here, and that sheet is displayed whenever you press on the add list. See that right there. And this sheet is displaying because the isPresented property is changing. So you can see right here the isPresented property is changing whenever we press the add list button. Now I can go ahead and create another sheet over here, and that will be for editing. But another good idea would be to just create an enum for the sheets. So let me show you how we can do that. Now I'm going to create an enum right here. I'll call it enum, and it will be my list screen sheets. Of course, you can use any name that you want, and it will be identifiable. We'll have cases like new list because we want to add a new list. You can say add list if you want, or edit list, where you will actually pass in the my list. But since it's conforming to identifiable, we do need to return something. So let me go ahead and return something over here. Now, there are multiple ways of returning something. Probably, I guess if I take the value over here, my list, I should be able to say my list dot hash value. I think that should also be correct. All right. So we can do that also. Now inside my code, I can go ahead and create this particular enum, and I can call this action sheet or something. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to create it somewhere on the top, private, which will be state private var action sheet, my list action sheets. There we go. And now I will find the code that is displaying the add list. So right there you can see it's presented true. But now since I'm using the action sheet, I'm using the enum, I can simply say action sheet. I'm going to change this to new list. Okay, that's an easy and a good change. What else? Well, what about if we're doing the long press right there? We need to change that too, right? So we'll say action sheet, edit list. And in edit list, we can pass in my list. Great. But at this point, we're not even using action sheet. So we'll scroll down and we're using the sheet over here with the is presented. Well, let's go ahead and not use that. Let's use a different one. And we're going to use the sheet where you can pass in the item and the content. And the item itself will be the action sheet because that is the thing that is changing. And in the content, we'll get the action sheet. We're going to get the unwrapped version of this. And based on that, we can perform a switch on the action sheet itself. If it's a new list, then I can simply go ahead and show a navigation stack. I'm just going to wrap it in navigation stack. So navigation stack so I can see the top bar. And we're going to display the add my list like this. What about the edit list? Well, when you're doing the edit list, we're going to still show the navigation stack, wrap it in navigation stack, and we're going to still show the same exact view or the screen, which is add my list screen. But in this case, we are going to pass in the my list. Now, keep in mind that add my list screen does not care that you're passing something to it. All right. Okay, so let's see what's going on over here. I think it's complaining. Oh, action sheet. I don't know why it puts like an underscore over here, so I'm going to remove the underscore. And now you can see that the add my list screen is complaining because it doesn't accommodate passing a list. So let's go back to the add my list screen. And you can see that the add my list screen, as expected, does not allow you to pass anything, especially not the list. So I'm going to go ahead and make that change. My list, and it will be nil. So I'm making sure that you can pass, if you want, a list to it. Great. So what will be the next step? Well, the next step would be that whenever you are passing these things, and if the my list is not nil, then we should populate the text box and also we should populate our color picker. And this can be done in several different ways. So once this particular view is loading on appear, when it appears, and if my list is not nil, we're going to unwrap it. And we're going to assign the list name to be mylist.name. We still have to do something for the color also. So let's go ahead and assign color to something. Now color over here, you can see it's not a color code, it's the actual color. So I'm going to go ahead and say create the color based on the hex that is being passed to you. And we're going to pass in mylist.colorcode. Great. Now let's go back to the my list screen and we're going to see if it works or not. Well, at least if it displays our edit mode or not. So this is our screen. Actually, let me zoom in. If I do some navigation, I can go to the reminders page. That's fine. If I click on or tap on the add list, I can see that. That's fine. But what happens if I long press on groceries? Ah, there we go. You can see that the groceries is automatically populated because this one is getting fired, add my list screen, and we're passing in the existing my list. But hold on a second, why is not one of these things selected, right? I mean, we did assign the color part of it also. If you go back, you can see that I am assigning the color, but for some reason, the color itself is not selected when we're in the edit mode. So we need to figure out that what exactly is going on. All right. So let's do that. But before we do that, let's take a small break and thank the sponsors for this video. This video is brought to you by Azam Sharp School. Azam Sharp School hosts one of the largest catalogs for iOS development. You can go to Azam Sharp School to check it out. Check out all these great reviews from my existing students. And you can click on courses to find all the courses that are available, including my brand new course, which is SwiftUI Architecture, Patterns and Best Practices. I've been working on this course for a very long time, and it contains all the things that I have learned over the past 3 or even 4 years of working with SwiftUI framework. So you can see the content that will be discussed in this course: MVVM in SwiftUI, migrating from MVVM to MV, aggregate models and store SwiftUI views, validation, navigation, and even testing. So this is a great course if you want to learn about the architecture, a different architecture for working with SwiftUI, the built-in architecture that Apple recommends and Apple uses in their own samples. Apart from that, there are workshops. Now, these are very hands-on workshops, and they run around like 3 hours, sometimes even more, on Zoom. And this is a great way to learn anything. So the next workshop is coming up on June 22nd. This will be on SwiftData fundamentals. I do have some other workshops like Introduction to Server-Side Swift using Vapor, and as well as Introduction to Testing, and finally Machine Learning using CreateML. So all of these workshops are coming up, and these are the best and the most popular item on the Azam Sharp channel. And one of the great things is if you sign up and become a member, then you get 50% off on the workshop. So that's always a great deal. And with membership, you can see you get 23 comprehensive courses, 140 hours of video, 50% off on the workshop, and also monthly Q&A. So we will host a monthly Q&A on Zoom. You can join in, ask questions, whether it's related to programming, whether it's related to your career. That's all fine, but just join in, have fun. So this is it. Check out azamsharp.school for more information. So the reason that the color is not being selected in the color picker view is if you look at the color picker view, you can see that over here we are comparing the selected color with the color which is defined over here on line number 14. And the problem that comes is that when we use the from hex and to hex and all that functions, then the color code is not really matching. So what we can do is, instead of comparing the colors, we can go ahead and try to call to hex function, which is going to compare the hex part of it. So I can just say to hex. So it's just going to return the hexadecimal code, and that code hopefully will be the same one. All right. Now, another thing to keep in mind over here is we are currently displaying these colors. That's fine. Sometimes people will put hex code over here also. I mean, if you want to generate the, the actual color from the color codes, you can do that also. But let's see if that actually changes something in our code. So I'm going to go over here and say groceries, and still you can see it's not working, right? Still the groceries is not working. Okay, so this might be something wrong with the preview container, because our code that we are using in the preview container might be a little bit different. But don't worry, that's not really a big deal. I can just change these codes. There we go. I just changed these codes to something else. All right. Let's go back now, and we are going to go back to my list screen. Okay, I'm gonna do a long press on reminders, and there we go. Now you can see that the reminders is setting up correctly. All right, and we also have the reminders over here, right there. Great. And if I long press on backlog, backlog is selected. Perfect. So it looks like it's working correctly, but we still need to update those things, right? So let's go back again to the add my list. And in the done button, which is somewhere right here, we have the done button. What we can do is, if we are able to unwrap this, if let mylist, so if we are able to unwrap the mylist, which is passed to it, then it means that you are trying to update. So we're just going to go ahead and say mylist.name equals to list name, and mylist.color code, because we're saving the color code, because the transformers, value transformers in SwiftData are currently not working. I think they were working before, but in the new version, they're broken again. So that's why we are storing the color code instead of storing the actual type itself. Else, well, else I think we can do all of this stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Now keep in mind that when you are updating, which is this top part of the code, we don't have to call context.insert, like context.insert over here. We don't have to call it because this particular mylist is already in the context. So if you call context again, it's going to create a duplicate copy. So make sure that you don't do that. Apart from that, we're just calling the dismiss, and that's pretty much it. All right, let's go back again. And I'm going to go ahead and add a new, well, I'm just going to go edit the list, I guess. So reminders, okay, it shows reminders. I'm going to say reminders, edit, and I'm going to select it to be blue and done. And there we go. We are able to edit our list. You can see it says reminders edit. If I add a new list, let's say if I add a new list, I'll say UK trip. And I use the blue one. Okay, UK. And then I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to use the blue one. I want to use the yellow one. And this should be called UK trip edit. And there we go, UK trip edit. So it looks like our updating or editing of our list is working correctly. This is great. And you can use a similar pattern for your application, whether you're, building the reminders app or any kind of app. You can use the same exact screen to use the one that you use to add. You can use the same exact screen to edit or update. So you don't have to create a separate screen for adding and separate screen for updating. You can utilize, depending on the needs, you can utilize the same screens. All right. So that's pretty much it. In the next video, we'll be taking further our app. We'll be working on stats, the things that can be displayed on the front of the screen. Like over here, we have to display my view, today's view, completed view, and all that stuff, and searching also. So we're on the right track. Thank you so much. Once again, if you like this video, please subscribe and please share this video with other people. That's so that it can rank a little bit higher in the search results. And hopefully you're enjoying it. Thank you so much. Hope to see you next time.